Hello, lads and lasses. Hey, if you like today's lesson, then wait until one of your teachers asks a question that nobody knows the answer to. Then raise your hand enthusiastically, and when your teacher calls on you, shout, I heart art, as this would really help spread the good word about my class. Okay, today we're going to talk about Leonardo da Vinci. There he is right there. You can always tell Leonardo because he wears the blue mask and uses the swords. All right, well, he liked to paint with dark, earthy colors. And he was not only a painter and an artist, but also an inventor. He painted the Mona Lisa, and he also painted the Last Supper, and he painted fantasy. And in his artworks, if you look in the backgrounds, to me they look like fantasy backgrounds. And we're going to look at his sketchbook and his notes that he wrote in his sketchbook. And one of the things I want you to take away from this is that he wrote his notes backwards. There he is. That is Leonardo da Vinci. That is what he would have looked like 500 years ago. Here is one of his earliest paintings. This is called the Annunciation, and it shows the angel coming to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. This is one of his earliest paintings. It's called The Annunciation and shows the angel coming to the Virgin Mary and telling her that she's going to have a baby. What I want you to notice is the colors that are in here, and like I said, is dark, earthy colors. So, the colors are not quite as bright as they are on Raphael's paintings. Another one of his earliest paintings, this is St. John the Baptist. He's baptizing Jesus. Again, the colors are not quite so bright. Now, here is what I was talking about on the backgrounds. Look at the background of this painting right here. And to me, it reminds me of the landscapes that are in Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies and things like that. Anyways, this is Madonna and Child. So Madonna and Child, if you remember, it just shows like the Virgin Mary with the baby Jesus. Again, another Madonna and the Child. And I want you to notice something odd about the lady there on the right. If you look at her forehead, she has this really huge forehead. And there's a reason for that. Back in the 1500s, it was a fad at the time for women to appear smarter. It was believed that a big forehead meant that you were smarter. So women would pluck the hairs out of their hairline to make their foreheads look bigger. So you'll see a lot of in these next few pictures that I'm going to show you, you can see a lot of very large foreheads, and that's the reason why. Again, this is a Madonna and Child, and if you look at the background here, again, it seems to me like a another planet or another time and place. A Madonna and Child, and here's a Madonna and Child, and another Madonna and Child. Again, Madonna and Child was a very popular image back in the Renaissance era. A lot of churches would pay artists to create images of Madonna and Child, so they would decorate the halls and inside of churches. Next painting that we're going to look at is the one that's right in the center here that the person in the photo is looking at, and it's called the Virgin of the Rocks. And so it shows the Virgin Mary and with her arm around the St. John the Baptist. Jesus is down there, and then there's an angel over here. So here's what it looks like. Again, Virgin Mary, St. John, Jesus, and then the angel. You can see her angel wings over here. These angel wings are kind of hidden because they're the same color as the rocks that are in the background. Here's a close-up of the angel's face. Here's a close-up of Mary's face. Here's a close-up of the background. Again, to me, it looks like another planet, another time, another place. Another thing is that Leonardo da Vinci worked in glazes. So he made like a very thin, he painted very thin layers of paint. And so you can see that sometimes when you have, like, you can see right up here, it looks like the rock is transparent. And that's because he's painting the rock with thin glazes. The Renaissance era was one of the first times that people would pay artists to paint portraits of themselves. In before the Renaissance era, it was mainly kings and queens and rulers and historical figures would be the subject of paintings. But now it was like everyday folk, and I'm not talking about like everyday, like, but it, rich people and the middle class, people that had money to spend on art could hire artists to paint pictures of them. Whereas before, it was only kings and queens and rulers and historical figures that had art made of them. And again, you'll notice the high foreheads. I want to talk about this painting a little bit. This painting came to Houston a few years ago, and I was able to go and visit this painting, and I learned a couple things about it. One of the things I learned is that the background of this painting, the background that you see was not painted by Leonardo da Vinci. There is a background under that black paint where it has a landscape and everything that is associated or normal with Leonardo da Vinci. But over the years, over the 500 years that this painting has been in existence, it has had several different owners. Well, one of those owners decided to paint over the background by using this cheap black house paint. It's kind of like a paint used for painting your house, to keep it warm in the wintertime. And they have X-rayed this painting and found Leonardo da Vinci's actual landscape underneath it. So that's one of the interesting things about this painting. The other interesting thing about this painting is that that animal that she's holding. A lot of my students think that that is a ferret or a weasel, but it's not. It's called an ermine, and that's an ermine right there. And it's kind of like a ferret. It's kind of like a weasel. But it's a common animal in Europe, and it's a common pet in Europe. We don't really have them here in America. One of the things that my students talk about, though, when they see these pictures, is I often get the comment of, "Whoa, that ferret looks swole," and what the students are often referring to is all the you can see the muscles in the arm of this ferret here, or the ermine. Sorry. And the ermines aren't really that muscular. It's just the way that the artist painted it. And I found this is not a Leonardo da Vinci painting, but it reminds me of the previous one. She says, "What the heck am I holding?" And she has some kind of odd object in her hand. Okay, so this painting you probably know already is the Mona Lisa. And there's a big mystery about the Mona Lisas. Before a few years ago, nobody really knew who the Mona Lisa was. There was a lot of speculation, a lot of guessing, a lot of conspiracies as to who she might be, and so one of, some people believe that the Mona Lisa was the mistress of Leonardo da Vinci. And other people believe that the Mona Lisa had Leonardo da Vinci had painted himself as a woman, uh, and that's who the Mona Lisa was. Uh, Other people believe that she was a member of the Medici family, but there was no real clear evidence as to who she really was until recently. In 2005, some documentation had become available that proved who the Mona Lisa was. And so she is Lisa Gherardini. He began this painting in 1503, finished it in 1519. Like I said, in 2005, Mona Lisa was officially identified as Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a silk merchant, Francesco del Giocondo. The painting was commissioned for their new home and the birth of their second son, Andrea. So before I move on, that's kind of a boring answer to the question, who is the Mona Lisa? It would have been more interesting and more scandalous if it had been Leonardo da Vinci painting himself as a woman or a secret lover or any of those things. But no, it's just a boring portrait of a boring person, perhaps. I don't know. I never knew her. But, anyways, the word Mona comes from Madonna. Madonna means my lady in Italian, and they shortened it to Madonna, and then it was shortened to Mana, and then that was shortened to Mona. So Mona Lisa is my lady Lisa. If you look very close at her, you'll notice that there are cracks in the painting. And the reason why there's cracks in the painting is because it was made from oil paint. Oil paint is when you mix pigment and oil together and you create a paint with it. Uh, and oil never dries. Or it's in the constant state of drying. Now, other paints like tempera paint and acrylic paint, they dry pretty fast. You know, you can paint with tempera and within 5 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on how thick you lay on the paint, you can be able to touch the paint and it doesn't come off on your fingers. With the same thing with acrylic, between 5 minutes to half an hour to an hour, within that time, you are able to touch the painting and it is dry to the touch. With oil paint, it can take from days to weeks for it to dry to a point where you can touch it and it doesn't come off on your fingers. And then it is not done drying yet. It will continue to dry for all eternity. And that's what's happening to the Mona Lisa. Oh, let me explain the cracks though. As oil paint dries, it shrinks. And as it shrinks, it pulls away from itself, causing the cracks. So that's why there's so many cracks. It's that it's been drying for 500 years. And on the internet, you can find all kinds of parodies of the Mona Lisa. They're funny. And here's one for the COVID. This is relevant to us now. All right, the Mona Lisa was once stolen. In 1911, the Mona Lisa was in the Louvre Art Museum in Paris, France, and there was an Italian uh, security guard who worked at the Louvre, and he was angry that this Italian painting was in a French museum, and he was under the belief that the Mona Lisa had been stolen from Italy when Napoleon was marching all over Europe. His troops stole all kinds of art. And he believed that the Mona Lisa had gotten to France through Napoleon. Well, he was mistaken. The Mona Lisa was in France. It had gotten to France through legitimate channels. You know, she was given as a gift and then bought and sold, and you know, it came to France legitimately. It was not stolen like this guy had imagined. Well, anyways, the security guard stole the painting, hid it in uh, his apartment, And he kept it there for 2 years, and he finally got caught when he was trying to sell it to an Italian art museum. That's how he got busted. I'll have to look up how much time he got for that. That'd be interesting to know. In 1956, a man doused acid on the Mona Lisa, and later that year, another man threw a rock at it and damaged it. In 1974, the Mona Lisa was on traveling exhibit in Tokyo, and a woman in a wheelchair, upset with the museum's disabled policies, sprayed red aerosol paint on the painting. And in 2009, a Russian woman denied French citizenship, threw a museum coffee mug at the bulletproof glass and cracked it. And speaking of bulletproof glass, this is what the museum or the Mona Lisa looks like when you are looking at it. It's a small painting. It's behind bulletproof glass because of all these things that have happened to it. And this is the crowd of people that stands, or when you go there, expect to be in a crowd to see the Mona Lisa. That most of the people that go to the Louvre Museum are there to see the Mona Lisa. Another famous painting that you've probably seen before is called The Last Supper. And it shows Jesus Christ is here in the middle and his 12 disciples. And there's 6 disciples on the left side of the painting, and there's 6 disciples on the right side of the painting. And this is the Last Supper that he had before he was arrested and put on the cross. And this is the exact moment that Jesus says to his followers, "One of you will betray me." And at that exact moment is when all his disciples react to it. So this is what you're looking at right here. They're all reacting to a statement, "One of you will betray me." So they're talking to each other. I'm not going to betray him. Are you going to betray him? Who's going to betray him? And that's what they're all talking about. Now, I think, here's a map of who everybody is. This is Bartholomew. This is James the Minor, and this is Andrew, and that's Peter, John. Oh, by the way, it says here, John, not Mary. There is a conspiracy out that this is actually Mary, and there's some. I haven't really explored it, but there's some mistaken belief that there's some diabolical reason that John is portrayed as Mary, or that Leonardo portrayed himself as John but as Mary. There's some crazy ideas out there. Then Jesus in the middle, and then there's James, Thomas, James the Major, Philip, Matthew, Thaddeus, and Simon. And then right here is Judas. This is the person that's going to betray Jesus. The other thing I want you to notice is the groupings of threes that are in this painting. Notice that Jesus is shaped like a triangle, and then there's a group of 3 people here, and a group of 3 people here, and a group of 3 people here, and a group of 3 people here. And all of them, the groupings of 3 is a reference to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, the Holy Trinity in Christian art. I talked about that with Raphael, and it's again evident right here is Christian and Catholic art of the Renaissance era had lots of references to the number 3. And again, like the Mona Lisa, there are lots of parodies of the Last Supper and lots of memes of the Last Supper on the internet. I love this one, though. This is very funny, I think. The teacher says, "No eating in class," and then the back of the class is all like having a big meal. I always thought that was funny. Oh, and this is Bernie right here, Bernie Sanders. Even like at the time of recording this video, it's been a month since the Bernie meme came out, and already it's not funny anymore. So by the time you watch this, I guess people in the future won't really know that the humor in the Bernie meme. And again, this is kind of like local to this time is that we're under COVID, and any gathering of six or more people, and the police will come and arrest everybody. Anyway, I thought this was funny too. All right, so now we're going to look at the sketches of Leonardo da Vinci. Um, this image right here you've probably seen before. It's called the Vitruvian Man. And in this image, Leonardo da Vinci is mapping out the proportions or the ideal proportions for the human body. And he has this guy has his arms outstretched, and notice that this square touches the very fingertips of his arms, and it also touches the top of his head and his feet. Did you know that if you stretch out your arms, the fingertips, the distance from your fingertips is the same as from the top of your head to your feet? So, for example, I am 6'3". If I stretch out my fingertips, it will be 6'3" across, uh, from fingertip to fingertip, which is the same as my height. So that's why you have this square right here. Also, I see that the shoulder, there's a line, there's an outline at the elbow and a line at the wrist. And that is a reference to the golden mean, or the golden ratio is 1 to 1.6. So that's what the Vitruvian Man is that Leonardo da Vinci is trying to figure out the ideal proportions of the human figure. The other thing I want you to notice is his notes right here are all written in Italian, of course, because he was Italian, but they're also written backwards. And he wrote everything backwards in his sketchbook. And I don't know the official reason for him doing that, but my guess is that this guy is a genius. And we're going to look at some things that he invented, and just to explore the depth of his genius. And I just think he did it as like a challenge to himself, that he uh, uh, just wanted to give himself an extra challenge when he wrote. All right, so I found this meme. I thought it was funny, and it pertained to his sketchbook. But the old lady trying to figure computer stuff out is like she's actually just trying to read Leonardo da Vinci's journal. I thought it was funny. I hope you do too. All right, so online, there's all kinds of memes that are in jokes about the Vitruvian Man as well. And this one right here, it's really just a sketch of somebody doing jumping jacks. Oh, and somebody made an action figure toy for Vitruvian Man. Batman, Vitruvian Man, Homer Simpson, Vitruvian Man. There's lots of jokes on the internet. All right, this drawing right here is a self-portrait of Leonardo da Vinci. And, there's lots of drawings in his sketchbooks that are really quite nice drawings. This one looks very contemporary. Like, I could easily see this as having been drawn by somebody in our time. And the reason why I say that is that the expression that that person holds would be a difficult expression to hold for a long time, because this is the time before cameras. So, this looks a lot like a drawing from a photograph, but uh, it isn't. Somebody had to pose like that for Leonardo da Vinci, and hold that pose for a while he drew the picture. This is called a fabric study, and artists at the time would practice drawing shading by drawing a piece of fabric draped over a person. I love this drawing because it looks like the Virgin Mary has two heads. I think that's funny. All right, so the image that's on the right is another one of his drawings from his journals or sketchbook. And so it shows a woman with a swan, and it tells the story of Leda and the swan. Now, this image is a very popular image in art. There's a lot of paintings in art history that show a woman and a swan, or Leda and the swan. So here's the story of Leda and the swan. Leda was the queen of Sparta, a very beautiful woman and well liked. And I've talked about the Spartans before, and guys know that the Spartans are a race of warriors. Well, anyways, Zeus fell in love with Leda, and that's a very bad thing because it really messes people up. So like here's a meme that says, women minding their own business, not being harassed, and then along comes Zeus, uh, and he just messes things up. Here's another meme: Greek mythology in 5 words. Unfortunately, Zeus was feeling horny. And another meme of Zeus is that a thing, anything that can give birth, and then he he's turned on by it. So, and then what causes the most problems in Greek mythology? And the little red piece of the pie is hubris, and hubris is the uh, uh, it's you thinking you're bigger than yourself, or you thinking that you're more important than you really are. It's excessive pride, is what it is. The little green slice of pie is fate or prophecy that couldn't be avoided, and the little black slice of the pie is some god threw a hissy fit because a human was better than him or her. But all of this other stuff, all these other problems caused in mythology, were caused by Zeus couldn't keep it in his pants. All right, and that's what happens here. Is that so Zeus falls in love with her and wants to be with her, but he can't let his wife slash sister know. He's married to his sister, by the way, Hera, and he can't let her know. So he disguises himself. He often disguises himself, and this time he disguised himself as a swan. And then he pretended he set up a situation where it looked like a swan was being attacked by a bird of prey, like an eagle. And she felt sorry for the swan, and the swan lay down next to her. And I guess they got it on, and she got pregnant from the swan. But she also lay next to her husband that night, and so she had like twins, but one of those twins was Helen, as in Helen of Troy. It's the same Helen from the Trojan War, the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen. Anyways, that's the story of Leda and the Swan. Uh, and again, it's shown a lot through art. All right, so here's Leonardo da Vinci's drawing of it. Leonardo da Vinci, not only would he do drawings in his sketchbooks, but he would also study in his journals and sketchbooks. And he liked to go down into the morgue and dissect people and study them. So he would dissect the skin. He'd peel the skin away and study the muscles. And then he would peel the muscles away and study the bones. Here's some bones, some arms and legs that he studied. I guess they're arms that he studied of people, and study the muscles. Obviously, he there was a dead woman in the morgue who was pregnant, and so he dissected the woman and dissected the fetus, or the womb. And like I said before, you peel back the skin and study the muscles. And then he would peel back the outer layers of the muscles and study the inner muscles. He would cut through the bones and study the inside of bones. Here he cut through a skull and studied the inside of the skull. Study the bones, study the ligaments that hold the muscles to the bones. And not only did he study people, but he also invented machines, or he imagined machines. So and other like I would say machines. So this is a weapon of war. This is a kind of like a cart or a chariot that the horses would either pull or push. And as they would ride, the mechanism inside the cart would turn and causing these blades to spin. And as the blades spin, they would cut people apart. Again, this is a weapon of war. Another weapon of war is a giant crossbow. Now, I watched a TV show not long ago that showed people trying to recreate this device with the tools and materials that Leonardo da Vinci would have had available to him at the time. And the upshot of it all was that with the materials that he had available to him, he could not have made this giant crossbow because it would have snapped under the pressure. They didn't have the proper um, technology at the time to make this giant bow that would not break as the ropes pulled it back. So he was thinking ahead of his time. Kinds of machines that he invented. He was very interested in flight and creating a device where people could fly like birds. So he made flying machines like this one, based off of what he saw in birds. Here's another part of the flying machine. This is a tank. 500 years before the first tank went into battle, he was imagining what a tank would be like, or maybe 450 years, 400 years. Uh, he was thinking into the future, 400 years uh, uh, of a weapon of war. Now, this tank doesn't have a turret that spins like our tanks, but it has a whole bunch of little tiny little cannons that poke out in every which direction from the inside. And so that's the way you could shoot in any direction. And then it has this armor around it that protects it. Another flying machine. He invented a helicopter, or it didn't invent a helicopter. He imagined a helicopter. Again, 500 years, 450 years before the first helicopters were made. A cannon that shoots multiple projectiles at once. And these are computer generated graphics of his weapons of war. The giant crossbow on the left and the tank on the right. And here is a traveling exhibit. I've been to see this exhibit. It came to Galveston a few years ago, and I went to go see it. And inside are they've made these life size models of uh, of his sketches and imagination and ideas. So this is the inside of the tank, and it shows how he imagined how like the propulsion system of it and how the little tiny cannons would shoot out in every which direction. He also invented ball bearings. Ball bearings are used in almost everything that we use. Any kind of machine that uses moving parts has ball bearings in it. Uh, Skates, roller skates, skateboard, bicycle, cars, any kind of machine that turns has ball bearings in it. Here's this flying machine. He invented a scuba helmet, or like a underwater breathing apparatus. This is a double hulled boat. So this would save a boat from sinking if it hit something. So um, it would take longer for the boat to sink, and hopefully it can make it to a port to be repaired. Another part of the flying machine. Flying machine. This is the helicopter, the tank. And then this is the joke at the end. So Leonardo, the turtle, is drawn as the Vitruvian Man. All right, guys. I hope you learned something about Leonardo da Vinci. I hope you enjoyed the art, and I will see you guys in the next one.
All right, that's it for today. And until next time, be a little art factory.